DreAllDay.com.
DreAllDay.com. I want to talk about the one thing. There's a book out there called The One Thing. Some of you may be familiar with it. It's by Gary Keller, and I think it's two people who wrote the book together. But anyway, it's a book called The One Thing. I sent the text message out talking about this, and the text message only gets so much space. But here I'll be able to go further on it. But there's this book called The One Thing. Some of you may be familiar with it. You should read it because it's a good book. And what I want to talk about is the context of it is that there is no one thing. There isn't one. And let me explain what I mean. See, the purpose of a book title, by the way, any of you who knows anything about books or knows anything about marketing or selling or copywriting, know the title of a book sells the book. Now we say don't judge a book by its cover. Well, we say that because that's what people do. We judge books by their cover. We judge books by their titles. And the title of the book, The One Thing, is selling the idea, the concept that if you can nail down the one thing, whatever the one thing, quote unquote, happens to be, then all your problems will be solved, and the heavens will part, and everything's going to work exactly the way that you want it to work. But the point that I'm making here in this video, and I want you to understand, is that there is no one thing. There is no one thing. And it's funny because when I sent this text out, somebody replied to the text and said, well, that's not what the book is about. And that leads to me to another point. See, a lot of people like to maybe wax poetic about how they know so much about this piece of information, that piece of information, this, that, and the third. But then you look at them and it's like, yo, you ain't even doing the stuff that you claim to know so much about. You ain't even doing it. But you want to tell me what a book is about? And because the person who replied to me, I know exactly who they are. And I replied and said something back to them, asking them a question. They didn't respond because they didn't want to respond, because responding would have put them in a spot where they would have exposed themselves for talking out of turn. The whole point is this. When it comes to the one thing, there is no one thing. There is no one thing that you need to do that's going to make you... Remember when I was playing ball, and when I used to put basketball videos on YouTube, a lot of ball players would come to me and say, well, Dre, what's the one exercise I can do that's going to help me jump higher so I can dunk? Well, there is no one exercise. Jumping is a total body exercise. You need all the muscles in your body working the right way if you're going to jump higher. There's no one exercise, no one thing that's going to make you jump higher. In business, somebody said, well, what's the one thing I need to do to make my business take off? There is no one thing. If there was one thing you could do to make your business take off, then we would all just do that one thing, and nobody would have to have a 2-day seminar. You need a 2-day seminar to do one thing? No. You could write that in a tweet, right? There'd be no books. If it was just one thing, a book is 200 pages, right? Why would somebody need to write a 200-page or a 100-page or even a 50-page book if there was just one thing you needed to do and everything would make your business would take off? What's the one thing you need to do to be a good parent? If there was just one thing, then there wouldn't be classes on parenting. There wouldn't be courses. There wouldn't be YouTube if there was just one thing. Because there would just be one thing and it'd be over, right? So the whole point here is that there is no one thing. And the concept that I want you all to understand in that text that I sent out, I said, hey, there's this book called The One Thing, and the book sold very well because it's a great title. It's great marketing to call the book The One Thing because it attracts every human being on the planet, because all of us will love a shortcut. We love shortcuts, and shortcuts are a good thing when you use them the right way, and they can hurt you when you don't know exactly how they're working against you because you're seeking one that doesn't exist. Thing is, there is no one thing, but a lot of people go looking for it. If there was one thing, again, that can make people successful, then there would be no self-help industry, there'd be no personal development industry, there'd be no professional development industry. But it's a great idea. If I was writing books, I would love to have come up with a title like The One Thing, because it would have sold me a lot more books. Regardless of what's inside the book, it would have sold me a lot of books because everybody's looking for that shortcut. And a lot of people will go read the book, do the exact same stuff after they finish reading it that they were doing before. Why? Because the book ain't gonna solve your problem, because there is no one thing. And a bunch of people who buy books don't even read them, by the way, in case any of you didn't know that. Most books that get sold are bought as gifts, and most books that get bought don't get read past the second chapter. That has been proven in studies. The whole point, again, is that if there was one solution that would solve everything, then we would all be doing it, and most people would be a lot more successful than they are, because it'd be a lot easier to be successful. Success is more challenging than that because it takes more than one thing. It takes the whole process of things that we all have to do that helps us become successful, and a lot of steps that we got to take. Many people don't want to take those steps, or even when they find out many people don't know what the steps are, first of all, so they can't do it. But then even when you inform them of what the steps are, a lot of people don't want to take them because it is more effort than they expected to have to give, and therefore most people stay mediocre at best, average at best, and worse. That's life. That's how it works. So if you're serious about becoming successful, understand that what you're going to be doing is, cliche alert, different than what most people do. All right, you want to be successful, most people are not successful. You got to do different and think different than how most people think. This is just a simple formula, but it's a simple formula because the formula is accurate and the formula works. So the question is not whether this is true or not. The question is where you want to fit on the bell curve. You want to be doing way more than most people don't do. You want to do about the same as everybody else, or you want to do worse than everybody, less than everybody else, which equals worse. That's a question that only you can answer, and you answer this not through your words but through your actions. All that said, text me. Tell me the best idea you got from this video. My number is 305-384-6894. I send out daily motivation every day for free. Once you're in my text community, you'll be getting that message every single day directly from me. Secondly, workonyourgameuniversity.com. That's where you work with me directly. That's the only place you can work with me directly. Go there. There's a link down in the description to go to Work on Your Game University. You'll see exactly what you need to do to work with me. We'll tell you what your next steps are. It's all laid out right there on that page, very simply. That's workonyourgameuniversity.com. Work on your game. Dre all day.